I, 31-year-old female, have always had a great relationship with my parents, 64-year-old female, 66-year-old male, and my brother, 27-year-old male, except for the rough years in high school. However, my relationship with my son's father, 31-year-old male, has been unstable. We broke up 8 years ago and have had intense ups and downs. There were times when we were friendly, and times when we only had court-ordered contact regarding our son. 5 weeks ago, I experienced a mental health emergency and was diagnosed with severe burnout by my therapist. I underwent intensive and slightly controversial ketamine treatments, which cost me $4,000 out of pocket. At the same time, I asked my son's father to travel the 5-hour distance to help take care of our son because I was not in a good state. We had improved our terms since I moved, and he planned to follow us in the summer. We agreed that he would take custody in June to relieve some of my responsibilities, as he had been supportive during the crisis. I felt comfortable letting him take on more parenting responsibilities compared to being a weekend dad, which he had been for the previous 9 years. On the day of my first treatment, my ex, who we will call Derek, started an argument. He claimed that I wasn't prioritizing our son and began provoking and being cruel to me. Ketamine, for your reference, is a hallucinogenic substance that has shown promising results in rewiring neural pathways. In order to be emotionally stable before my appointment, I needed to avoid conflicts. However, his behavior pushed me to kick him out. He then threatened to take our son, to which I responded, "Over my dead body," reminding him that our custody agreement had not been changed and that I would involve the police if necessary. I left after yelling at him in the parking lot, and my friend picked me up for my appointment. When I finished my treatment, my friend informed me that my parents had been speaking with Derek and were in tears. Apparently, after I left, Derek called my parents and panicked, telling them that I was mentally unstable and our son was in danger. He falsely claimed that I threatened to involve the police. My aunt offered him a place to stay, and my mother filed a Child Protective Services report, which she later retracted, although I wish she had let it happen so that I could prove my innocence. They helped my ex escape with our son. As a result of this, my son missed his first 4th grade concert, where he was going to play the glockenspiel. His father told him that the reason they had to go was because I am selfish and not taking care of him, which is not true. I was still the primary caretaker, but when I wasn't feeling well, Derek would take on the role. You know who didn't call me throughout this whole ordeal? Not a single one of my family members. I had to drive a total of 10 hours to pick up my son, and he has been dealing with intense emotions this week, which we will discuss with his therapist during his next appointment. Now, everyone is telling me that I should forgive my family because their intentions were good. I told them that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So Reddit, am I the jerk? AITA? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. NTA, your ex and your family are shitty people. You are doing everything right. It can be very difficult to ask for help. Keep working on you and help your son through this. If more people had your attitude about mental health, the world would be so much better. I say that as a mental health patient myself. I wish I had gotten help back then like you, but the person stopping me was me. P.S. Burn that motherfuck in family court. Comment 2. Can't judge. To be blunt, the easiest explanation for everyone's behavior is that you are completely unfit to be a parent. Either every single person in your story is behaving outrageously except for you, or you have more issues than you're willing to admit. But again, can't judge, I simply don't have enough information. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks so much for all your comments and support on my last post. It really means a lot to me during this difficult time. It's been a month since the whole ordeal with my ex, Derek, and my family. I wish I could say things have gotten better, but they've only gotten more complicated. After I picked up my son from my aunt's place, I thought we could start to move on and heal, but a week later, I received a letter from Derek's lawyer. Apparently, he's seeking full custody of our son, claiming that I'm an unfit mother due to my mental health issues. I was shocked and devastated. I never thought he would stoop so low. I immediately called my lawyer and started gathering evidence to prove that I'm a capable and loving mother. I got letters from my therapist, my son's teachers, and even some of my friends who have seen me with my son. It's been a stressful and time-consuming process, but I know I have to fight for my son. In the midst of all this, my parents have been trying to reach out to me. They keep saying they're sorry and that they were just trying to do what was best for my son. But I can't help but feel betrayed. They knew how much I was struggling, and instead of supporting me, they sided with my ex and helped him take my son away. It's going to take a lot more than a few apologies for me to forgive them. But here's the thing, I found out something about Derek that could change everything. A few years ago, when we were still together, he had an affair with one of his co-workers. I had my suspicions at the time, but I never had any proof. Well, last week I ran into the woman he cheated with at the grocery store. We got to talking, and she confessed everything. She even showed me some old text messages between her and Derek. Part of me wants to use this information against him in court. It would prove that he's not the perfect father he's trying to make himself out to be. But another part of me hesitates. I know what it's like to have your dirty laundry aired out in public, and I don't want to put my son through that. Plus, I'm not sure if stooping to Derek's level is the right thing to do. I've been losing a lot of sleep over this decision. I keep going back and forth, weighing the pros and cons. On one hand, I want to do whatever it takes to keep my son. But on the other hand, I don't want to become the kind of person who uses someone's past mistakes against them. I've been thinking a lot about my own past lately, too. Growing up, my parents always had high expectations for me and my brother. They pushed us to excel in school and extracurricular activities. I remember one time in high school, I got a B on a math test. My mom was so disappointed in me. She made me study every night until I brought my grade up to an A. At the time, I resented her for it. But now I understand that she was just trying to help me succeed. My brother, on the other hand, always seemed to get away with everything. He was the golden child who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. Even when he got caught smoking pot in high school, they barely punished him. I always felt like I had to work twice as hard to get half the recognition he did. I wonder if that's why I stayed with Derek for so long, even when things were bad. I was so used to seeking approval from others that I couldn't stand the thought of being alone. I convinced myself that if I just tried harder, I could make our relationship work. But now I realize that I deserve better than that. I deserve to be with someone who respects me and supports me, even when things get tough. I deserve to be happy and healthy, for myself and for my son. So I've decided not to use Derek's affair against him in court. As much as I want to win this custody battle, I know that's not the right way to do it. Instead, I'm going to focus on being the best mother I can be, and trust that the truth will come out in the end. I'm also going to work on forgiving my family, even though it's not easy. I know they made a mistake, but holding on to that anger and resentment is only hurting me in the long run. I need to focus on the future and surround myself with people who lift me up, not bring me down. It's not going to be an easy road ahead, but I'm ready to face whatever challenges come my way. I know I have the strength and resilience to get through this, no matter what happens. Anyway, thanks again for listening and for all your support. It really means the world to me. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember to be kind to one another. My husband grew up in foster care and I supported him through med school. But when my parents needed us, he cheated. So I sold his dream property and paid for their care with his share of the money. I, a 30-year-old female, come from a wealthy family. My husband, John, 30 years old male, however, was in foster care since infancy until he aged out. Background. We met in medical school, and while my parents never directly helped him out, in many ways the help they gave me ended up benefiting him as well. For example, my parents could afford to rent me a private apartment. When he had trouble with his lease and roommates in the middle of the first year, I offered him to move in with me. I asked my parents, and they felt no need to charge him rent since I wasn't going to have roommates anyway, so it wasn't like they were foregoing rental income. As a result, he basically got free housing all through medical school, saving him a huge chunk of his loans. I am an only child, and my parents were always of the mentality that they would rather help me out when they're here than with their inheritance, since they could actually see me enjoy and benefit from it this way. When we started residency, my mom gifted me her childhood home valued around $1.5 million, so me and John, who were married by then, moved in there together without paying a cent. My mother is getting old, and my father is retired. She has recently started showing signs of dementia, so me and John had a conversation about what was going to happen. While my parents are wealthy, the vast majority of their wealth is vested in properties. With my dad retired, there isn't much liquid income that they have, so we would either have to sell one of their properties, which is a bad move since property grows in value over time, or pay for their elder care ourselves. When I mentioned the word ourselves, John felt like it would be unfair to him. Since he has no his side of the family, he feels like it's unfair that the cost of caring for my parents will come out of the shared household budget. For context, he earns around $500,000, and I earn around $300,000. He believes I should pay the cost out of my own pocket. I replied that under normal circumstances, this would be completely reasonable. However, he is failing to remember all the ways he has, albeit indirectly, benefited from my family's wealth. He never paid a cent for housing since the start of medical school, and not having to worry about the cost of housing gave him the ability to pick up 2 more fellowships, extra specialization education for doctors, and earn the money he does now. In my opinion, it's not fair that he gets to benefit so much from his association with my parents, but he's asking for separate checks when it comes to the drawbacks. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Either they're my family or they're our family. He can't have it both ways. While he did see my point and told me he'd think about it, he later said he felt offended that I had thrown his past in his face and lorded my wealth over him. I don't feel like I did any of that, but I'll leave judgment to you. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update, comment 1. I feel like his comment was him projecting. I was definitely ready to rule against you based on the title, but I don't see that you threw it in his face. Unless you are leaving out some very relevant comments you made to him. You just reminded him of how he has, and presumably will continue to, benefit from your family's wealth. It may be that since he's likely never had much, he finds it hard to let go of the kind of money it will take for your parents. That's a different issue, and can be overcome, maybe with therapy? Not the a-hole. Comment 2. Not the a-hole. Nothing was indirect. He directly benefited from receiving free housing for years. No rent, no mortgage, no saving for down payments. That is not throwing his childhood in his face. It's reminding him that he has in fact benefited financially from your family. Also, if your parents are cash poor, why not jointly buy one of their properties from them? Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all your support. It's been a week since I shared my story, and a lot has happened since then. After our initial conversation, John seemed to be more understanding of my perspective. He apologized for his reaction and agreed that we should approach this as a team. I felt relieved and thought we had made progress, but I was wrong. A few days later, I discovered that John had been secretly looking at apartments without telling me. When I confronted him about it, he admitted that he still felt uncomfortable with the idea of using our shared finances to care for my parents. He said he needed his own space to think things through. I was hurt and confused by his actions. I thought we had agreed to work through this together, but instead he was pulling away. I tried to talk to him about it, but he shut me out, saying he needed time to process everything. As the week went on, things only got worse. John started coming home late from work, claiming he had extra surgeries to perform. However, when I called the hospital to check on him one night, they told me he had left hours ago. I couldn't help but wonder if he was seeing someone else. My suspicions were confirmed when I found a receipt for a romantic dinner for 2 in his coat pocket. I was devastated. I had trusted him completely, and now I felt like I didn't even know who he was anymore. When I confronted him about the dinner, he broke down and confessed that he had been seeing a nurse from work. He said he felt suffocated by our relationship and the pressure of my family's wealth. He claimed he needed someone who understood what it was like to come from nothing. I was heartbroken and angry. I couldn't believe he would throw away everything we had built together over something so trivial. I realized that his issues with my family's wealth ran deeper than I had initially thought. Looking back, I can see that there were signs of trouble from the beginning. John had always been sensitive about his background and the fact that he had grown up in foster care. He often made comments about feeling like an outsider in my family and not fitting in with our lifestyle. I had tried to reassure him that none of that mattered to me, But I can see now that I didn't do enough to make him feel truly accepted and loved for who he was. I was so focused on the practical aspects of our relationship that I neglected the emotional side. Now, I'm left picking up the pieces of my shattered life. I've asked John to move out, and I'm considering filing for divorce. I never thought I would be in this position, but I know I deserve better than someone who would betray me like this. As for my parents, I've decided to sell one of their properties to pay for their care. It's not ideal, but it's the best solution I can come up with for now. I know they would want me to put my own well-being first. Thank you all for listening and for your continued support. I know I have a long road ahead of me, but I'm determined to come out of this stronger and wiser. My stepbrother skips class and gets suspended, but I get blamed. So I expose his bad crowd and watch him squirm as he faces the music alone. My 15-year-old stepbrother got suspended yesterday for skipping class. I have 5 classes with him. He's been coming to 3 out of 5 of them. He also doesn't come to our advisory, but we don't get graded in there, though. So 3 out of 6, if you count that. It hasn't really been a problem because I've been giving him the work we've been doing, if possible. So it's not like he would have been behind a lot, but it obviously wasn't going to help with his attendance. Yesterday, when I was in class, I heard his name called on the intercom, and they were saying that he needed to come to the office. I knew he was probably in trouble, but I didn't expect him to get suspended. When I saw he wasn't at dismissal, I knew something was wrong, and when his brother picked me up, he let me know what happened. When I arrived home, his dad was there and confronted me about his son's attendance. He was mad and wanted to know why I didn't let him know his son continued to skip class. I told him that it wasn't my business and the teacher should have called him the first time if it was a problem. I told him that he was copying my work that he was missing, so he wasn't missing too much. He then got mad at me for helping him instead of telling on him. I told him again that it wasn't my problem. He started talking about how his son just got out of ISS, so he trusted me to let them know. I told the man that I barely speak to him now, so it's crazy that he would even think that I would go ahead and snitch on his son. I didn't tell the first time, so I obviously wasn't going to do it the second time either. His other son literally stepped in and defended me before he went to work. This only made him more upset, and he waited until my mom got home and she sided with him, but in a nicer way, kinda. Basically told me that she'd appreciate if I would have told them since this was a recurring behavior for him, but understands why I didn't tell. My mom's husband didn't like that and started to threaten to come to his classes, and I don't want that because that affects me too. He's doing too much and for no reason. He had a meeting with the teacher and the principal today and started making slick comments at me. Because earlier today he had the audacity to say something about wondering what else I'll cover for him for. Like, what the frick? I'm not even sure if that's slick, it might as well be direct. I don't see why he's so mad. I don't snitch on his son and his son doesn't snitch on me. Like, we've gotten close a little bit and I see no reason to tell on him as he doesn't tell on me. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. He is the parent. It is his job, and his job only, to ensure his child is attending school. No one else's. Especially not another minor. Would it have been helpful to him if you had told him what was going on? Sure, but you have no obligation to do so. He is the one who has failed here, and trying to deflect that onto a minor tells me a lot about his character. None of it good. Tell your mother that her husband needs to handle his own responsibilities instead of pushing them onto you, and she should have told him so herself. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I don't know how long your families have been blended for, but you could also make the point that telling on him could seriously impact your relationship with your stepbrother and his siblings, who may already be a bit fragile if you don't have much in common. Presumably, your mom and stepdad are keen for you all to get along. Make it clear that you will not play informant, and they need to take that into account and find other ways to keep track of him. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a while since my last post and a lot has happened, so I thought I'd give you all an update. First off, my stepbrother's suspension really stirred things up at home. His dad was furious and confronted me about not telling him about the skipping. I tried to explain that it wasn't my place to snitch, but he wasn't having it. My mom kind of sided with him too, saying she would have appreciated a heads up. It was a tense situation, and I felt like I was being unfairly blamed for something that wasn't my responsibility. Things only got worse when my stepdad started making these passive-aggressive comments, implying that I might be covering for my stepbrother in other ways. It was a low blow, and it really pissed me off. I mean, just because I didn't rat him out doesn't mean I'm enabling all sorts of bad behavior. It's not like my stepbrother and I are super close, but we have an understanding, we don't snitch on each other, period. Anyway, the whole thing has made things really awkward at home. My stepdad is constantly on edge, and it feels like he's just waiting for me or my stepbrother to slip up. My mom's been trying to keep the peace, but it's not easy when tensions are running so high. To make matters worse, my stepbrother's suspension has had some unexpected consequences for me too. Since we have so many classes together, his absence has been pretty noticeable. Teachers keep asking me where he is and if I know what's going on with him. It's putting me in an uncomfortable position, and I'm starting to feel like I'm being watched all the time. I've tried talking to my stepbrother about it, but he just brushes it off. He doesn't seem to care about the trouble he's causing or how it's affecting everyone else. It's frustrating because I feel like I'm being dragged into his mess, even though I didn't do anything wrong. Looking back, I can't help but think about how things got to this point. My stepbrother has always been a bit of a troublemaker, but it seems like things have gotten worse since he started high school. I remember when we were younger, he used to get in trouble for stupid stuff like pulling pranks or talking back to teachers. But now it's like he's just given up on school altogether. I don't know all the details, but I've heard rumors that he's been hanging out with a bad crowd lately. Some of the kids he's been skipping class with are known for getting into drugs and other shady stuff. It's worrying, but I don't feel like it's my place to say anything. I mean, who am I to judge? I've made my fair share of mistakes too. Still, I can't shake the feeling that something needs to change. My stepbrother is heading down a dangerous path, and it's affecting everyone around him. I don't want to see him end up in serious trouble, but I also don't want to be the one to turn him in. It's a tough situation, and I honestly don't know what to do. For now, I'm just trying to keep my head down and focus on my own life. I've got my own classes to worry about, and I can't let my stepbrother's issues derail my own progress. But it's not easy when everything at home is so tense and unpredictable. I guess that's all for now. Thanks for listening to me vent, and I'll try to keep you all updated if anything else happens. Take care, everyone. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.